On your Tuesday episode of Locked On Raptors, the bottom of the Eastern Conference looks like it might suck this season, but do the Toronto Raptors stand a chance of sucking less than a lot of those other teams?
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Tuesday, August the 20th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. Been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 10 seasons, going on 11 seasons on your various platforms of choice. You can, of course, find me over on the Hell website at Woodley Sean. You can find the show on Instagram at Locked On Raptors, and you can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server. Link in the description of the podcast. Lots of Jonathan Mobo propaganda going on over there these days. It's a beautiful place. Come join the Mobo train. Among other things, you can talk about anything you want, whether it's video games, music, movies. I'm talking about my run through Cuphead right now in the video game chat. It's all going on. Please join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server to help you get through the summer months. Of course, you can find the show for free in your favorite podcast app of choice. Follow, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. You can also go to YouTube and subscribe. And when you subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the notification bell button. You'll get a push notification every single time the show is about to premiere or go live, which is a beautiful thing. Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right, let's get to it. On today's show, it's a summer-ass episode, baby. We're going to take stock of where the Toronto Raptors sit in the bottom sort of tier of the Eastern Conference. It feels like there's a pretty clear top 8 and bottom 7. We are going to figure out where we think the Raptors fit into that mix in the bottom 7. Is there a chance they could sneak into the top 8? Probably not, but we'll get into that too. At the end of the show, we're going to do a little bit of promotion of one of our guests' recent piece over at his Substack newsletter, talking all about lefties and Raptors history. Again, a summer-ass episode, but I'm very excited for that dumb summer fun. Here to join and engage in said dumb summer fun is our pal Vivek Jacob from Sportsnet and the aforementioned Raptors in 7 Substack. Big V, how the hell are you, pal?
I'm doing great. I mean, minus the fact that we're kind of in this lull period. You know, there's no Olympics, there's no Euros, there's nothing going on. And that's why we're talking about prime summer content for the Raptors.
Hell yeah. It's also why I've thrown myself back into a playthrough of Cuphead, the hardest and most frustrating video game of all time. If you are frustrated by Cuphead, also, let me know in the comments. We can commiserate together about the game that makes me want to throw my controller through the window. Okay, let's dive in, Big V, to the Eastern Conference dregs. Yes, the Raptors figure to be in that bottom part of the Eastern Conference. It seems like there's 7 teams in no particular order that are going to round out the 2 play-in spots, or the 2 last play-in spots, and the non-playoff teams in the East. They go as follows: Washington, Atlanta, Charlotte, Toronto, Brooklyn, Chicago, Detroit. So the exercise we're going to do here today is we're just going to start off by listing the teams that we each think the Raptors will be better than this season. Talk about that a little bit, and then get into the teams that we think they will be worse than. Let's start with the teams we think they'll be better than. Big V, I give you the floor. Which teams among that group do you think the Raptors have a chance to be better than this year?
Well, you would have to put the Wizards on that list.
Uh-huh.
I've seen nothing to suggest that the Nets could be better. Obviously, they've made that big move in terms of getting rid of Mikal Bridges, and seems like with Jordi Fernandez in the mix, they're kind of like, hey, we will go into this rebuild path. So I'll put them on the list as well. The Blazers are probably not there yet, and so I'll have them join the list. The
They're
Pistons,
not in the Eastern Conference, Big V. Come on now.
we're only doing the East.
Yes, of course we're only doing the East. Did you listen to the start of the podcast?
That wasn't what I took from the text. My bad.
You should read texts better, friend.
My bad.
It's the summer.
The Pistons will be on my list.
Mhm.
And then who else do I have listed? Well, since I have that's 4 teams that I have there. And then it gets
Plus the Blazers for some reason.
Hornets, Wizards, Pistons, Nets.
You got them all worse
I
than the
said the
Raptors.
Blazers because yeah, I was doing the West thing too. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. My bad. My bad.
So Hornets, Wizards, Pistons, Nets. These are the teams you think the Raptors will be better than this coming season.
I mean, I think the Hornets are maybe in that questionable tier. I don't
Sure.
know if that's for certain. Obviously, health is a huge factor. We haven't seen health play out in their favor. And so they're in the maybe category, but Wizards, Pistons, Nets for sure.
Yeah, I think Wizards, Pistons, Nets are the chalk picks. Those are obvious. They're really, really bad teams. I think they're going to be miserable. And I think when you include those teams and your beloved Portland Trail Blazers and what I think is going to be a really bad Utah Jazz team, that's already 5 teams that are going to be like bottom of the league terrible. I think for anyone who's like, oh, this is a season where the Raptors are going to go try to tank for Cooper Flag, like the existence of those teams means that's probably not what's going to happen here. It's going to be really hard to get into that bottom 5 if that's what the Raptors even wanted to do, which I don't think it is. I think they'll probably do something similar to what the Utah Jazz have done the last couple seasons, which is try to go field a competitive team, see what you got, and then if you reassess at the deadline and lose some games down the stretch to better your lottery odds, I think they'll be fine with that. This is a loaded draft. I think being in the 7, 8, 9 range in the lottery is somewhere they'll be perfectly comfortable being, and they should be, because there's going to be a lot of dudes in this draft who could be big difference makers. And again, the Raptors have already gotten their major stroke of lottery luck when they drafted Scotty Barnes, who is probably the best player from the 2021 draft class. So I'm with you on those 3 teams. I'm kind of shocked you don't have the Chicago Bulls in this range. I think the Bulls are going to suck. And I know Josh Giddey looked good in FIBA basketball, but we've seen what players do in FIBA doesn't always translate to the NBA. And I think Josh Giddey as a lead guard with his difficulty creating separation, with his lack of any sort of pull-up juice whatsoever, I think that's going to be kind of an abject disaster. And this roster is grim. Yes, Zach LaVine is still there. Will Zach LaVine play? Is he engaged? Is he going to get traded at some point? That's a major question hanging over that team. Kobe White is nice. He's probably their best player, which if Kobe White's your best player, you're in some trouble. They brought back Patrick Williams. Patrick Williams has been kind of the same player for every year of his career. He's been hurt a lot. I have high hopes for him. I think he can be good. He was someone I wanted the Raptors to go and target this summer, but there's by no means any guarantee that Patrick Williams is going to take some kind of jump in year 5. And then you have Nikola Vucevic, who looked really rough last season, is a year older, and is going to be tasked with anchoring a defense that I think has a chance, Big V, to be the single worst defense in the NBA. Josh Giddey, Kobe White, Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic, all together. Jalen Smith as the backup center. This team's going to suck, and I think the Raptors are going to be comfortably better. Why did you not have them in this tier of teams that the Raptors will be better than?
I guess I had them in the maybe category, and
Sure.
I think you make a very compelling case that makes me lean towards it's probably going to be bad, and they're
I
probably
was really good at debate class, man.
And yeah, they'll probably keep shopping Levine and Vucevic and try to see what can happen there. So, reading kind of where the roster's been headed, it makes me definitely lean towards the Raptors being better than them as well. Maybe I got on the Kobe White train a bit too much at the end of last season.
March basketball, it's not real.
It is for some, but I do think that if you look at all the cases that you've made, they probably should be below the Raptors.
Yeah, I think just the talent the Raptors have in their top 4, and the way it fits together, I think just blows the Bulls mix of dudes out of the water. Maybe Zach LaVine has a throwback season where he looks awesome again and he's like a borderline all-star. That could change things, but I don't think it will change things for that defense, which no matter what sort of cranks and levers Billy Donovan can try to pull, there's just not a whole lot of defensive talent there. Unless like Matas Buzelis as a rookie is ready to be like the sort of awesome rim protecting help defender that he was branded to be coming into the draft. They have Ayo Dosunmu. He's nice, but it's always troubling to me, V, when you look at a depth chart and 2 of the players on the second tier are also guys from the starting lineup. Just on the ESPN depth chart here, they have LaVine and Williams both as starters and the second string guys at different positions. So that feels like it suggests to me a bit of a thin roster beyond their top guys, who, again, I don't think are all that particularly good Anyway, we're going to come back on the other side. I want to get into the Charlotte Hornets, among other teams as well, as a team that I think, they could go a whole lot of different ways. I'm by no means rooting for the Charlotte Hornets to be good, but they have some talent that might be able to rival the Raptors. We're going to get into the Hornets, the Atlanta Hawks, and are there any teams in the top 8 the Raptors maybe can squeak out a better season than? We'll do that coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp. And look, it's always at various times of year, your schedule is going to be packed. You got the school year coming back. If you're a parent, you got kids' activities, big work projects, and more. It's easy to let your priorities slip. Even when we know what makes us happy, it's hard to make time for it. But when you feel like you have no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. And you can just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. That's a huge deal. Sometimes it doesn't always work with the first person you're matched with, and you can find a better fit, not be charged extra. That is a lovely thing. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Back at it here with Vivek Jacob as we dig into the teams in the bottom of the Eastern Conference that we think the Toronto Raptors will be better or worse than. Before we dive into that, if you want to hear about some of these teams, Locked on NBA, which is a great place to go make your second listen of the day, as they are covering every single day, all summer long, all of the news around the NBA. Not a ton right now, but that means lots of season preview stuff, win total speculation, et cetera, over there at Locked on NBA. So go check it out. All right, Big V. Let's talk about the Charlotte Hornets. They were not on my list of teams I thought the Raptors would be better than. I had the Wizards, Pistons, Brooklyn like you, as well as the Chicago Bulls. And the Hornets, I just have written Charlotte with 6 question marks next to it. I think this is the team that's basically going to decide whether the Raptors are a play-in team or not. We know the history of the Hornets. They have LaMelo Ball, who is barely playing at any given moment, driving fast cars recklessly. Also, you have Brandon Miller, who was really good as a rookie, and maybe he's a guy who kind of elevates the ceiling of this team and eventually becomes their best player. Josh Green, nice addition in the offseason for them, just as like a defensive wingy guy who maybe has a little upside to tap into. I'm not sure there's a ton there, but he's kind of like a connective tissue type guy. And then you have the garbage person, Miles Bridges, and Mark Williams rounding out their starting 5. Their bench gets a little thin. Vasilija Micic, yes, he was good in FIBA, but he was really bad as a rookie last season. Trey Mann, I've never really thought as much of anything. Cody Martin, the lesser of the Martin brothers. Grant Williams, the guy who drives every locker room he's in, insane. And then Nick Richards kind of round out that rotation. There's like some talent here. We know LaMelo Ball, when he's playing, drives winning basketball if he's playing, sort of sensible basketball and not TikTok basketball. But I do think that if everything hits for the Hornets, they have a higher upside than the Raptors do. My confidence that it hits is probably like 40%, but that's why I have those many, many question marks next to them. What's your read on the Hornets? They're an endlessly weird team.
I did have them more in the maybe category than for sure. And so I do think that if you look at history, injuries come into this team. You look at, Mark Williams' health. You look at the way Nick Richards has been getting playing time the last couple of years. I feel like that's going to be a position that's going to be sorely lacking. Then you look at LaMelo, that position, has just been up in the air for them. That's probably why they went out and got some point guard depth. But
Sure.
I do think that the struggles will continue. They've got a first-time head coach in Charles Lee. And so I do think there are going to continue to be those growing pains. And so with this team, I lean towards them being worse than the Raptors for now.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, it's basically a bet against the health, right? And if for any reason LaMelo Ball misses time, or Mark Williams goes down, or not that Miller's had injury or anything like that, but like if any of these main core guys go down for them, I think they're in a lot of trouble. And look, they have like Tijon Solon, who might play as a rookie, who, I think he's going to be the kind of rookie, very raw guy who probably loses his minutes when he's out there if he's getting rotation run at all. It's not a very inspiring roster. And if you're someone who does not want the Raptors to make the play, you want to see them sort of have better lottery odds and all of that, the Hornets could be the bane of your existence, because if things go wrong, I think they're going to plummet and the Raptors probably stand a better chance. It's basically like who has a higher likelihood of getting hurt, Jakob Poeltl, who apparently ties the entire Raptors enterprise together, or LaMelo Ball. I'd say I believe Poeltl stays healthier more than I believe in LaMelo Ball staying on the floor. But if LaMelo Ball plays 65 games, like, the Hornets are going to win a lot of games because he just drives positive basketball when he's out there, as much as I find him odious to watch a lot of the time. The Atlanta Hawks, Big V, they feel like they're slightly ahead in terms of like win total projections than the rest of this bunch. They're like 35.5, I think, on FanDuel. The Raptors are at 30.5. The Hornets are around the same range. Everyone else is below them. What's your read on the Hawks? Because I think they're better than the Raptors. Jalen Johnson's awesome. Trae Young, without the DeJounte Murray experiment going on, is like obviously talented. Again, extremely odious to watch. The Hornets and Hawks, two teams I just like refuse to watch play basketball because I do not like watching their lead guards. But that's, hey, we all have our personal tastes. Bogdan Bogdanovic is awesome. He's probably going to start this season. You got Dyson Daniels. You've got Onyeka Okongwu, who's yet to really figure it out. Clint Capella is still there, probably starting Zachary Risachet. It's a weird-ass team, Big V. How do you sort of handicap them? And do you think the Raptors have a chance of being better than the Hawks, who I think everyone is penciling in as the obvious 9 seed this year?
Yeah, I think they have a chance. I do think with the Hawks, clearing that situation between Trae Young and DeJounte Murray was important. And now, obviously, you've got a good backup in Dyson Daniels as well. So I think that fits in nicely. We'll see what happens with Kobe Buffkin. But
my boy, little Buffkin boy, let's go.
But I do think when you look at if Bogdanovic can stay healthy, then you look at the size between Jalen Johnson and Risachet and Capella. Like, that's pretty imposing. That's pretty athletic. That's pretty mobile. And so I think that's where you kind of lean towards them. And I like the pairing of Capella and Okongwu. I think obviously with Okongwu, he has a higher ceiling that, he's only teased potential so far, which is probably why they haven't moved off Capella yet, to be like, hey, Okongwu, the reins are yours at center. And so maybe this is the year that happens, and maybe there's a trade deadline move that happens with Capella. But I do think that the clarity now that you see with the roster will have them functioning better.
Yeah, I think I believe a little less in Okongwu than a lot of people do. He's also like barely been on the floor for long stretch. He's played 80 games once and hasn't gotten more than 55 in any other season in his career so far. He's just, I don't know, weird player, kind of not much on offense. It's hard to build a sort of context around him that makes sense. Maybe he hits, and that would, I think, certainly change the ceiling of the Hawks. But I also think there's a chance the Hawks maybe are bud again. I don't know, man. It's that starting five is good. Like Trae, Bogdan, Risachet, who's like not the type of rookie who's going to come in and demand the ball a whole bunch and sort of hemorrhage minutes and points when he's out there. Jalen Johnson, who I think is awesome, and Clint Capella, like that's a good starting five. I think it's pretty comparable, honestly, to in terms of just like raw talent to what the Raptors are going to roll in their starting five. It's probably going to come down to the benches with these teams. That's where I'd give the Hawks like a slight edge, but I don't think it's like a demonstrable edge. And if Scotty Barnes takes a jump this season, which we're all hoping he can, and quickly continues to sort of step into being that lead guard type, I do think there's a world in which their starting five is just better flat out on like a per minute basis than the Hawks starting five. Maybe that powers them to more wins. I think it's going to be an interesting race to watch these two teams throughout the season. Obviously, the Raptors are one injury away at any point from not being very good, but I do think their starters are going to be competent enough to keep them in a lot of games. And so this is a pretty interesting coin flip to me between the Hawks and Raptors. Slight edge to the Hawks, like 55-45, 60-40, something like that. But I'm not like scared of the Hawks. Never have been. You can't be scared of a team with Trae Young at the helm. Do you have, okay, very quickly here, is there a team in the top 8 that you would be like, oh yeah, that makes some sense if the Raptors were to finish ahead of them? It feels like there's a pretty clear line of demarcation between the top 8 and bottom 7. Maybe there's a couple of wobbly wheels there. Is there a team that stands out as like, okay, yeah, they fell, Raptors moved past them into the top 8? That isn't like a total stunner to me.
If I had to pick one, and I feel bad doing this already, it'd probably be the Miami Heat. I think
Yeah.
when you look at Jimmy Butler getting older, you look at the struggles where they kind of just looked old at times last year. And I don't know that they've done enough to address that. I think that's probably the one team I look at and say, okay, if they continue to have like the health struggles that they had last year and guys in and out of the lineup, and you reach a point where things just aren't quite gelling, then maybe they go the other way and start to think about the next iteration of that team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Jimmy's going to be 35 before the season starts. Like, at some point, if you can't stay healthy every year and you're in the season, I know he's like Jimmy Butler in the playoffs, and that can't be discounted, but the regular season has to happen first. And there's a world in which this team's kind of butt, man. Like, I know Jaime Jaquez Jr. is nice. I think he's maybe kind of more of a lower ceiling young player. He's a good player. I'm not sure there's like a ton more to tap into there. He's an older prospect, all of that. Bam Adebayo is very, very, very good. He's not carrying an offense. And if you're asking Tyler Hero and Terry Rozier to do that, then your defense is going to struggle. Yet they're the Heat. They'll do some, devil magic and probably win 45 games again, but you're totally on the money. Like, this is the team at the most risk of falling out, and a single injury to Butler, especially if Bam goes down, maybe even more so than Butler at this point. If Bam misses any time, I think they're going to be in some serious trouble. They're going to be relying on Khalil Ware as like their starting center. Perhaps Kevin Love is still there. We'll see what kind of dudes they drum up out of the G League and turn into really nice eighth men. But we haven't seen that yet. And so, yeah, I think they're the team most likely. I still don't think it's going to happen, though, because of Eric Spoelstra and pixie dust, et cetera, et cetera. That's going to do it for our look at the dregs of the Eastern Conference. I'm sure we'll chat with some of the hosts of the Locked On shows covering all of those teams as we get closer to the season and all of that. I would love to do a podcast with our pals over at Locked On Hornets just to kind of get a read on what they think of things in particular. But let's move on, and we're going to head into some summertime fun with a draft of the all-time Toronto Raptors left-handed players. It's the Ned Flanders segment coming up in just one sec. Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime, the single best place to buy tickets for all of the events you want to go to, whether it's baseball, concerts, theater, other sports. It's all there for you. And GameTime has a new feature called GameTime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. GameTime Picks filters out the fluff to show you the incredible deals on great seats. You don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. I use it all the time to buy tickets for the things I want to go to. I bought baseball tickets for both Cleveland and Pittsburgh a couple weekends ago. My wife took a little baseball trip with me. It was great. So go check it out. All in pricing. You can toggle this feature on to show the total upfront price with no surprise fees at checkout as well. Be sure you turn on that feature. It's a great, useful thing. You can get seat views, panoramic views from where you're going to be at, so you know exactly what the sight lines are going to be if you've never been to the venue before. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, rounding it out here with a fun little segment with our pal Big V, who over at his Raptors in 7 Substack newsletter, as of right now, you can go and read a piece that he wrote about lefties in Toronto Raptors history, the all-time lefty roster. Big V, before we dive into a little draft of left-handed players in Toronto Raptors history, what was your impetus for writing this piece?
Well, every year, Mark Stein, ESPN NBA insider, formerly ESPN, now running Substack, puts together his all lefty team, and it's kind of a fun thing that he's done over the years. And I was thinking about the lefties who have played for the Raptors, and I was like, hey, what if we just made a roster of lefties? we've seen based on the New York Knicks evidence that RJ Barrett would absolutely hate that. But yeah, just for theoretical purposes, I thought why not? And August 13th, I believe, was International Left-Handers Day. So
Are you a lefty, Big V?
No, I am not.
You're not. Okay.
Yeah, I've got a pretty decent left foot when it comes to soccer, but but beyond that, not much ambidextrousness going on here.
I come from a family of lefties. I'm the one weird lone righty in the bunch. So yeah, it's quite an affliction to have. We're gonna dive in now to a draft. We're each gonna take 5 guys. We're gonna make a starting 5 of Toronto Raptors lefties. Big V, you started this whole thing, so you can decide whether you want to go first or second in this draft. I have a hunch of where you're going to want to go. That first pick, pretty primo spot in this order. But who are you going with your first pick or second pick if you choose to do that? Well, what's the order going to be here first, I guess?
Are we going to be doing like snake draft?
Good question. Yeah, let's do a snake draft. That seems a nice way to balance things.
Yeah. So we can go snake draft, but I will take the first pick. I will go with Mr. Chris Bosh.
Of course you will. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Very good. Best lefty in Raptors history, to be sure. And we know Big V from past episodes is a Chris Bosh appreciator, Chris Bosh defender, Chris Bosh. Sometimes I may say his name like I'm Sean Connery. All right, I'm on the board for 2 picks. I'm going to take Damon Stoudemire, the first ever Raptor. That's a good one. And then I think I'll take RJ Barrett. He's really, really good. He's really fun. I had a good time watching him. And the other guy, I think in the sort of race to go in the top 4 here, wasn't like my cup of tea despite being cool. Are you going to take that player?
I am. I think so. I believe we're talking about Morris Peterson.
Oh, no. Interesting. Taking Morris Peterson. Okay. Here we go.
So I will take Morris Peterson with 1, and then I will take Keon Clark with the other.
Damn it. That was my pick. That was my next pick on the board. I'm really upset about it. I loved Keon Clark, and the center position a little bit slim.
Like the center you would have loved to put next to Bosh, right?
Yeah, that would have been a ton of fun.
At least at that time, at that period of basketball when he's going up against like the Dwight Howards and the Tim Duncans and all of that, and it's like, here we go.
Well, now I'm in a tough spot because my roster is going to be, I would say, a tad cramped. But I think I just got to go talent here. I got to take Jalen Rose with the 6th overall pick. I thought for sure he was going to be your pick. Frankly, I think it's foolish you took Morris Peterson over Jalen Rose, but that's fine. I'll load up on the talent to make up for not getting Chris Bosh. My next pick, this is a big one. I think I'm going to go with the boss, Ed Davis, with my next pick. He's going to be, probably my center, but maybe he can go at the 4. We'll see who else I pick up. But yeah, Ed Davis will be my next pick. So I have Stoudemire, Barrett, Rose, and Davis. You're at Bosh, Peterson, and Clark, and you are on the clock for 2 picks.
Okay, so now
I'm so mad I didn't get Keon Clark. I'd like put him top of my list. A fool.
So this is where it gets a little tricky. I am gonna go with CJ Miles just to give me that additional shooting. I like the way I'm separating myself from you with that spacing.
You're putting a whole lot on Keon Clark to play defense on this team with a wing combo of Peterson and Miles, I have to say.
Well, hey, listen, when I was making this all lefty team, I was like, wow, is there something to lefties not being able to defend? Like it's slim pickings on this roster for sure. And so I think with the other option, I will go with Rondé Hollis-Jefferson.
Okay. Your team makes
defense.
No sense. Who is playing point guard on your team? Is it Rondé? Is it FIBA Rondé?
Yeah, it's FIBA Rondé. Pretty much. Yeah, we'll figure that part out. Maybe I should have picked Jalen Rose.
You probably should have picked Jalen Rose. Yeah, I got ball handling and spades on my team. So I need to fill out my lineup. I've got Stoudemire, Barrett, Rose, Davis. Could probably use a little more size in the front court. Keon Clark. I'm going to go to bed just saying Keon Clark's name. I could do the heel pick and take a guy everybody hates, but I'm not going to do that. I think I'm going to go ahead and pick someone everybody loves, Yuta Watanabe. Get a little wing defense, get a little space, get a little size in there. I think he's going to round out my starting five here. If you had to pick a six-man, Big V, who would it be?
Well, it would have to be a point guard at this stage. So
yeah, I think there's two left on the board.
As much as Goran Dragic who was the better player, I will roll with Derek Martin and the man who kept alive the 3-point streak when it was most needed in Raptors franchise history.
Derek Martin is a great pull. I did not even have him on my list here. I forgot he was a lefty, but that is an excellent one as like a backup point guard a player who's ever existed. If I had to go with a six-man, I mean, I do love myself Thad Young, more of a sentimental pick than he was really good for the Raptors pick, because outside of that one time where he crossed over Joel Embiid, he wasn't very good for the Raptors. I also don't want to have to relitigate the Thad Young trade anymore with this team. I need to be done with that. So I think maybe I'm going to go with the upside pick. Maybe I'm going to go with someone who could, potentially flourish into something this year. One of the lone lefties on this team, in addition to RJ Barrett, DJ Carton. I'm going to take DJ Carton as my six man. I looked really good in the summer league. That's kind of all I got. Other options left on the board. You got Thad, Goran Dragic. You got Greg Monroe. Moose didn't get picked. Probably fair. He wasn't very good with the Raptors. We're taking like the Raptors version of these players. I'm pretty sure is sort of the exercise we're doing. Rick Brunson. No thanks. You've got Rodney Hood. Anybody remember when he was on the Raptors? That was wild. That's everyone says, the Raptors, the Gary Trent Jr. Norm Powell trade, they lost it. They don't count. They got Rodney Hood in that deal too to really juice it up the return for the Raptors. We're gonna leave it there. You got Stoudemire, Barrett, Rose, Ed Davis, Yuta Watanabe on Team Sean, a team that actually makes basketball sense. And then Big V, Chris Bosh, Morris Peterson, Keon Clark, CJ Miles, Rondé Hollis Jefferson. No ball handling, no wing defense. They stink. But you have your say.
I got more wing defense than you.
RJ Barrett, this is the year. It's gonna come around, baby. Yeah, we're asking a lot of you to Watanabe here, and we're asking Jalen Rose to try, which 50-50 on that. So tell us who you think won the lefty draft, and share your favorite Keon Clark stories and moments, because that guy rocked. We're gonna leave it there. Anything you want to promote for the good people out there, Big V?
Well, you can check out the rest of the lefty column at Raptors in 7. I'll have my regular stuff going on. Obviously, it's a bit of a lull right now with Sportsnet, but once the NBA kicks back in, we all in on that. And you can follow the rest of my stuff on Twitter at Vivek Jacob.
Awesome. Find me on the Hell site at Woodley Sean. Not doing much over there except posting the podcast every day, but it's there if you want to go check it out. Instagram, the Discord is where you can actually find me hanging out, talking ball on the internet. It's a good place to come hang out. It's not mean or anything like that. Way fewer horrors going on over on the Discord. It's a good time, other than when our pal Drew decides to pipe in and say Jonathan Mobo isn't good. What a fool. But we'll leave it there. We will be back again on Wednesday with another episode of Locked On Raptors. Topic TBD. Maybe we'll do a mailbag or something. We got some other fun stuff getting ready for the season in the hopper down the line as well. But until then, thank you so much for hanging out. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye. That was a brick and a half.